Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio Show. I'm Derek Asklar, and Mr. Craig Talley's on the line there. We'll be hosting the show tonight, and we're going to talk about something kind of really different for me to be even talking about. It's arrowhead hunting. I got an opportunity. And I kind of go through it here in a minute, but got a chance to hunt a property that I think has some good activity, and I'll tell you about it in here and throughout the show of why I'm thinking it is. But it's something that I've never even tried. I've walked fields and stuff, and of course metal detecting and looking for, arrowheads and stuff, and you can sometimes get a glimmer of them and stuff like after a rainstorm, and you're out there metal detecting in a field that's been plowed or something. And, you kind of spot these things as you're walking along, just sight find, so to speak. But I'm actually talking about digging for them, Craig. Not just kind of coming across them, actively looking for them in the ground. And I don't know jack about it really, other than what I've seen on videos and what I've seen on some of the Facebook pages. They have a Florida artifact or arrowhead hunting site that I went to today. On Facebook, or a Facebook page, and they're kind enough to answer some of my questions, because really any little bit helps. I mean, I basically knew the environment I'm looking for, but never really thought about what kind of equipment or anything else I'd need to initially get started. So it's been kind of fun figuring it out, Craig. I guess we get so wrapped up in metal detecting that the other side, like bottle hunting and arrowhead, hunting, artifact hunting, all that kind of stuff, we wander into it because of metal detecting. We find we dig a find, all of a sudden we find a bottle, and we're working our way around and start finding a bunch of bottles, kind of like what, Mike does, your roommate there. He seems to be into the bottle hunting. He has a lot of luck with it.
Yeah, he found one today.
Oh, he didn't, and found another one. Jeez.
Yeah, well, he's digging and it or something, and I wonder what that is. Popped the bottle out.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I actually found a couple myself at a yard sale of all things. I stopped by real quick on the way home, right by the house here, and I actually found a bottle. And it had the cork lift. I don't know if it's the original cork topper thing on it, but it's a pineolium bottle. It's a medicine bottle, I think, because it says 25 drams net on the side of it. It's all, the old-fashioned cork bottle top ones. I think I found it online. I was just kind of looking around, and it was like a $30 bottle. I got it for $1 because I liked the way it looked. And then I got a Doc McGilly's Sarsaparilla. I guess it's a root beer bottle. It's the blue bottles. And what struck me about it has a etched Confederate, rebel soldier or soldier, looks like, in the side of it. The face of it. I'll take a picture. I don't know if it's going to turn out in a picture. I don't think it was hand done. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know bottles very good. I just thought it was a cool looking bottle. And that's more or less what Craig, we find a lot of bottles, unless it looks cool to us, we pretty much give it away or whatever, we take it home and put it in the collection if you have one of those. I have a tendency to break glass a lot, so I don't have a ton of bottles, but just the ones I've kind of found or were given to me by somebody, that they found. But anyway, kind of got off topic. We do that a lot here. Now, by the way, guys, we do have open lines also. The call-in number is 352-504-4170. And you can call in questions, comments, advice. But I'm going to kind of get started here, how this started out. And we went to a party, of all things. We out down here in Central Florida. We can have a party just about anywhere. We were at a friend's house, and it's clear back in the woods, guys. I mean, I think we traveled 3/4 of a mile down to, if you want to call it a road, I call it a path, to get back to the friend's house there. And they had what they call, this is like the 7th annual Beast Feast, and we get together, drink beer or whatever, and they cook up all kinds of different meats and stuff. So, we had ostrich and gator and hog and deer, venison and everything, and everybody just cooks up everything, and we sit around, talk, whatever, just have a little party. But I got to talking to the owner of the property we were on, and he was telling me that a guy came out like 6 months ago, something like that, and asked if he could arrowhead hunt. or, hunt for artifacts, whatever, on his property. And he said, yeah, cool, no problem. Just I kind of like to see what you're finding, just so I could see it. Guy said, fine. So we went and dug, I guess, for about a week. He was out there on and off throughout the week. And then, well, the owner walked out there because he deer hunts and stuff off that property, and noticed all the open holes. The guy had dug everything up, out of there, and or whatever, dug the hole down like 2.5 foot deep or something like that, and just left open holes everywhere on the one side of the property. Obviously, to me, that said, okay, if he's coming back continually over 2 or 3 weeks' time, and they're located, in a certain area, he's not like worked across the property all the way or anything, that he must have been finding something. But he got my buddy, the owner of the property, kicked him off there, said, look, I can't have you out here leaving open holes. Somebody's going to get killed falling in one of these things or whatever, especially with them kind of close. And the guy said, fine, okay, and he left. Well, the guy come back about a week later hunting the property that's touching, just about bordering my buddy's property there. And since then, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4 people come out with him every single time, and they keep on coming out. I told me right there, well, there must be something there. You know what I mean? Just going by activity. I mean, obviously, he's not going to sit there and dig forever in some place that he's not finding anything.
Yeah.
So I thought about it. So I told him, so you mind if I, come out here with a couple friends or something and, bring metal detectors out and horse around with that for a while, and then I might want to try to dig for some of these things. There might be some stuff out here. And he said, yeah, I don't care. So, I called up Mike Miller and Mark Hoover, because they kind of live close to me or whatever. Asked them if they wanted to go, and they were all over it. And none of us have, well, I know me and Mike we have zero experience in this area of kind of history finding, so to speak, with arrowheads and everything. Mark, I'm not sure if Mark has, well, Mark's online. Maybe he does. Mark, do you have any experience in artifact, finding or anything like that, arrowhead finding? You can just put it up on chat if you want to. Just realize, you got Swazi on there, Brandon Stewart, and Bill Marsh all on chat. And if anybody wants to get on chat, if you're new to the show, you can just click over to Spreaker.com and go to Hardcore Metal Detecting. You can just click on the comment, and as long as you've logged in, you can message and everything. A lot of these guys have a lot of experience, so good resource anyways. But yeah, we just the types, even the types of arrowheads you find down here, it's pretty much Levy County points, or with the Levy points and stuff. I guess they have a style for every part, probably for tribes too. I'm totally clueless. I mean, I've been curious. Yeah, you got to be, like our relic hunters. I mean, you got to really know your stuff and be able to identify all this stuff. But yeah,
style change over thousands of years.
All right, yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Craig. I'm not sure why.
Oh, okay.
Or you say it again.
Oh, my earbuds fell out.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, brother.
But they dig down like 15 feet deep with a backhoe, and then
no, I'm not doing all
that stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you might want to try call back, Craig. Yeah, try call back, Craig. Your phone is just not getting through for some reason. I'm not sure why, and I'll just pick it up from there when you call back.
All right.
All right, man.
All right.
But anyways, yeah, I don't plan on digging to China, so to speak. I mean, obviously we're dealing with sand down here. You start getting depth, you got to kind of be careful. But I'm looking. They told me to make a probe. A couple of them did, and we got Craig back now. Told me to make a probe, and be able to probe the ground. Kind of and gathered. It's kind of like bottle hunting, probing for bottles, or probing for hut sites. You're going by feel and possibly sound a little bit. Being down here in Florida, yeah, we have some limestone rock and stuff, but I mean, you're listening for small taps, like picture a penny down in the ground and you're tapping on it with a probe or something like that. It's kind of what I think it's going to be like. But I have one of those at the house here, and I'm not going crazy with this. I'm gonna, if I think there's some stuff in a spot, and I'm gonna dig down a foot, maybe 2 foot tops, which is not
Well,
unheard
what
of
you
anyways.
do is you go right to where that guy was digging.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, to start out there. And obviously, I mean,
Go right there.
yeah,
right between the holes that he's dug.
right. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. As far as equipment and stuff, I may bring a sieve with me, but I think I'm just going to kind of wing it a little bit.
I think you need a sifter.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference from what these guys tell me. I mean,
Well, yeah, because you're not only looking for arrowheads, you might find beads or anything like these scrapers and stuff, these small ones.
There's scrapers, there's little like needles or whatever they call them.
Drills. I know they find drills too.
Drills, yeah.
Yeah, I know some of. I've been looking at a lot of photographs because I'll at least recognize it by the photograph. I may not know the name, but at least I'll know I've seen it. Okay, I have to go back to this site or this thing as far as what I'm finding, and I have no idea. Who knows? I might, I'll probably find nothing, but it's always.
I found a bird point one time. I think it was 11,000 years old.
Yeah, okay.
But it's amazing how these people are so good with these artifacts and tell how old they are, just by looking at them, the styles and stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was kind of laughing at Mark's post up. He goes, I'm going to bring a chair with him. That's what he said. But, Mark's also possibly bringing a detector. We're not going to, kind of go into it too much until we know it's going to be there. But, might get a chance to see a certain detector in action. So I'll be probably video all this stuff just because it's kind of interesting. I never thought, we've talked about it before about this digging thing. I don't want to sit here and dig holes everywhere. But I guess when I found that kilt, up in Ohio, I started really thinking about like Indian, stone things and the pestles and all the stuff that we see or that I could see because I'm looking at the ground most of the time, digging and everything else. What to look for? What if I start finding shards and stuff when I'm out detecting, like where they've tried to make implements or something like that. I've always made note of it. So I have areas where I found this kind of stuff while digging other targets, and they're not really. But it shows that they've been working. Napping, whatever, making arrowheads, making tools, scrapers, whatever. And if they fit in your fingers or fit to you grab a hold of it in a certain way and it just feels really good, that's usually a scraper. I've found a couple of them over the years, and they're pretty primitive. They're not something they made on a whim or something, but you can feel the impression where your thumb goes, your fingers fit on it and stuff like that. So I was kind of thinking that would be good areas to go to too. I mean, the place that I'm talking about it's probably like 500 yards, not even that far, maybe 100 yards from water source, and you know that the water levels were a lot higher back then. So where I'm talking about is going to be, it's right where the goes downhill a little bit. We're not talking a lot. We're talking maybe a foot or two. It angles down in. So this could have been a beach area or at least very shallow water. So there may, along water's edges and stuff, Craig, you talked about that. You find a lot of arrowheads and stuff like that right along the water's edge because they would, hunt, fish and everything else. So, but
stupid. They usually camp right on the creeks or a river.
Yeah, I was going to say we got Brandon. Brandon's on here right now too. Sorry, Brandon. I kind of got talking on a topic there.
Yeah, no, not a big deal. I was going to say I've done a lot of plowed fields in metal detecting in the last 7 years, and I've yet to find an arrowhead. But like Craig was just saying about near the water, we do find up here occasionally, especially if you're anywhere near a river, especially a quickly moving river, we find bedrock mortars. I don't know if you've ever seen those before. Nugget Noggin did a great video on one a couple of months ago, where they actually, over time, they grind their spices or their wheat or their grain literally into a piece of granite next to the river, and over time it becomes like a bowl, like the size of a salad bowl.
Yeah, I've heard of that, and I haven't seen that video by him, but I'm going to watch it just because I'm curious. It's kind of sparked an interest, with me, knowing the heritage down here and all the tribes that were down here, even before the Seminoles, with the Timucuan Indians and stuff. I learned about this stuff in like 4th grade, down when I was down here the first time when I was a kid. And it always kind of had an interest with me about the certain tribes down here. But man, I'm pulling up these old maps and stuff. There's so much activity. I mean, down here with Indian activity and all the history that's kind of just laying there that you could say if it's not, metal detecting stuff, but it's kind of the same thing. We treasure everything we find, I'm sure. These guys work really hard. I was watching some videos today, and some of them are, in rivers and small streams and stuff like that, digging up even megalodon teeth down here. Which was really cool. The old shark's teeth and bones and, from like way back, and it kind of sparked an interest in me. So I figured, what the heck, I'm going to try it. I called Mike up and I was telling him, and he goes, well, that sounds great. I'll be there. So, it turned out to be a fun time, a couple people out there. So and Mark's going to come out. And, Mark, I never did look on here to see if he had experience with any kind of thing, anything like this. But it's going to be comical, I think. But, well, I guess
I'm going to give credit to these people that actually find these things consistently. I've dug with guys down in Massachusetts and Connecticut and all over New England that do find them on these same fields that I've been in. It takes a really good eye to really catch these things the way that they're sticking out of the ground. Of course, a lot of the ones up here are made out of quartz, not so much the obsidian or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So, you see the white stone in a farm field, and I've picked up plenty of pieces. I've also picked up leaves that look like it. Bill mentioned perfectly placed bird poop that looks like it with an arrowhead or something like that. I have never actually found one, but I've had people around me do it, and I want to say that it's a honed skill that if you know what you're looking for, especially with the scrapers or any of that type of stuff, I'm just not good at it. I mean, I guess I concentrate too much on listening to the headphones and not enough staring at the ground while I'm going.
Well, that and maybe, you have to train. It's almost like training your eyes.
Yeah, you got to train yourself.
They sit weird in the ground. Not weird, but they just sit in such a way. And some of these guys, they can walk right over and they'll see like
I look for white.
Yeah.
It's a distinctive color that white quartz.
Right.
And a lot of times it'll stand out. I've found most of mine on construction sites, where they bulldoze, and then rain would come in and you'd see shards. And, as soon as you start seeing a few shards here and there, then you start looking, But I got to where I could just walk along and my subconscious would see it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what
my dad was, unbelievable. He had, after he died, I found, boxes of stuff he never even showed me that he'd found over the years. All kinds of stuff,
Yeah. Well, even with, we talk about sighting this kind of stuff. I mean, down here in Florida, when, you find a plowed field, and I know right where one is, but the lady won't let anybody on there. We were literally, the morning dew had just wet the ground enough, and, I was out there loading up scrap metal, trying to get it off her property because they were putting a sod farm in, and we were finding shards everywhere. I mean, everywhere you looked, you saw a white sparkle or an off color. And I probably picked up an entire 44-ounce, because that's all I had with me at the time, was a foam cup filled with shards and partial drills and stuff like that. And then my buddy that I was working with, he's arrowhead hunted all his life. I mean, from the time he was like old enough to walk. And he's found so many just buckets of them over the years, just walking fields, and what he does for a living, he's right out there in it every single day. So on lunch break, he'd walk around looking. But usually you get that water or that dew, or if after a rainstorm or something like that, the sun comes up, that morning sun, you'll catch glimmers of them, or what could be arrowheads or whatever. And it's very noticeable down here because most of the time the ground down here, especially on a plowed field, is pretty much kind of the same color, where up north you get the reddish and the grays and all that stuff, so it kind of plays tricks on your eyes. But up in Ohio, I found that kilt just because it was different. It's something about it. There's only a little bit of it sticking out of the ground, but it just didn't fit the environment. And the type of stone it was, it looked like not a granite, but it had that look about it. And I just reached down and picked it up. I said, this doesn't look right. And I said, oh my God, I found something. And it's kind of like what it is, Brandon. You just don't. You might see just a little bit of it. Some of these guys just have their eyes trained where they notice that, and boom, it seemed like an arrowhead every time, So,
yeah.
And so whether I can do it or not, that's another question. But I'm pretty thorough. I mean, just, why not try it? I mean, it's like bottle hunting. If I find a spot where there's some bottles, and I start digging them up when I'm detecting, I'll sit there and spend an hour just digging up bottles if I can, or if there's anything decent or not broken. But
now, related to metal detecting, Derek, do you guys find the kettle points down there that they seem to find up in a lot of Connecticut, Rhode Island? They seem to see a lot in New Jersey as well. The old, the old bean pots or the old Dutch ovens that were repurposed after the settlers left, that the Indians would actually turn into a point. I mean, is that something you see?
I haven't really looked into a lot of the finds that these guys are making. I've never really even considered that. I do find a lot of wood-burning stove parts, that kind of thing down here. I just haven't been looking. All these years, I pick up slabs of what I call flintstone, that the chunks of it where they are not flint, but that they'd make arrowheads out of. They can, nap off
Is it
of
obsidian
it. Or? I don't even know. I don't know what kind of. I have actually. I'll take a picture of one of these rocks. It's about I don't know, about an inch or two bigger than a softball. You could tell where they've used it. It may have been a tool itself, but I find this stuff, and it's odd. It's not like the Sumter County limestone rock. Yeah, I mean, they got. This looks like a chopper you'd use to chop a head off a fish.
They use rock for mortar and pistol. They actually made bowls out of rock.
Right.
It's crazy.
As far as
once I started finding these things, and I was amazed at the technology. When some of these artifacts, some of these arrowheads, it's like an artist made them. I mean, I was sitting there going, man, that'd be quite a skill to develop to make an arrowhead out of a piece of quartz.
It's not. Yeah, it's not easy. I've watched a lot of stuff on that. That's an art form. If you can make one of those things and not rip your fingers off or cut your fingers off, you're doing pretty good in the first place. One of the other main reasons why I wanted to do this also is my thoughts on Spanish. When the Spanish were here, and if you can find an area where you think it was like a lot of activity, Indian kind of activity, the Spanish, they associated with these Indian tribes, I'm sure, and so whether it's bad or good, you might have a chance of finding other stuff around it, as far as what we usually look for, as far as metal relics of some kind. So it's kind of like I don't know.
You talking about coins?
Well, coins or whatever, it doesn't matter. Anything you find. I just want to, I know that they were here, they were around because there's too many stories I hear from some of the old timers that talked about the Spanish being right here in my town. They were trying to get make turpentine, apparently, or making turpentine or something along that line, right here, not even 3 miles from my house. So, and I don't know whether it's folklore or what. But there's always some truth in it. But you get enough of these stories, and you're trying to kind of piece together. And that's one of the ways I figured to piece it together, because if they were involved with Indian tribes at all, I know they're going to go to the nearest village or nearest place to to talk to them or whatever they're going to do. So, I mean, I was just kind of like leading me down a path, or leading me to a place where I might find some really, old relics, and, kind of go from there. But it's just kind of decided to do it. I called Mike yesterday and Mark yesterday and kind of threw that on him, but it's going to be getting hot out here, here in another month, real hot. So I figure, what the heck, give it a shot. But I guess Mark was saying on there, he found a bunch of arrowheads once, and I guess maybe he was digging for them or found a bunch of them. They're around, they're underneath our feet.
No, he said it was in a flea market.
Oh, that's just wrong, Mark. Okay. You're on restriction. You don't get the metal tech for the first 2 hours. No. But I figure it'd be comical anyways, because I know, we got to watch for snakes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we do that all the time anyways. I saw a video where the guy's, talking about coral snakes and stuff, and they're very they're one of the most poisonous snakes, but they don't have the right teeth to get you in the leg. I mean, between the fingers or something, they might be able to, but most of the time they run from you. These things will scurry away pretty quick. Rattlesnake's the only thing I kind of worry about, but it's, I don't know. I just never really had a problem with them in this area anyways. A lot of pygmy rattlers, but they're kind of like, they'd sooner run from you, it seems like, unless it's in a really hot day, I guess. Maybe they'd be really active. But so that's about the only thing I figured I might run into. We do have, and a lot of people don't even realize, we have panthers down here. We have bobcats, we have coyotes, we have a lot of that, even bears. There's bears in Brooksville, I know, because I've seen them. So we have a lot of wildlife around, but I never really. I guess maybe I ought to bring my gun with me. I don't know, just in case, because we are out in the middle of, might as well call it swamp woods or something like that. It's kind of a mile back in, anyways, and there's nothing back there. Just where my friend lives at. So they have lots, but nobody is living on them. So we'll see. But I guess maybe I ought to bring my gun with me. What do you think, Brandon? Be prepared.
I will not go metal detecting at all in New Hampshire without a gun, no matter what, even if I think that I'm going to be a quarter mile into the woods. It's the one time that you get out there and you get encountered by an animal or just that sense of fear and you don't have it. You're going to say, well, for the extra pound and a half I'm carrying on my side, I think you're going to want to have it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been having a lot of hog activity, and we have a tremendous amount of hogs, wild hogs down here, razor, whatever you want to call them. And they were just a mile from my house. You could see where they went through like a rototiller. It's about a 20-yard wide trough through this field. And I don't usually worry about them too much. They'd sooner, a lot of times, run away, but it'd be my luck one of them get ticked off and try to charge me, or something like that, because we are in palmetto bushes and stuff like that.
Aren't hogs a lot like bears, where they're territorial when their kids or their young are around, too?
And this is the right time of year for that to be kind of starting to happen, having the little piglets and stuff. And thinking about, too, the environment we're going to be in is there's a lot of palmetto bushes, trees, they're real small. They're not real thick yet, but I mean, we got to be careful, but usually you make enough noise that most of the wildlife runs off. But I've personally seen, I know one panther for sure, around in this area, and I've seen a couple of bobcats too. And these, and they're pretty, they sooner run. I mean, a lot of times, unless you corner them or something like that, or they're young. But yeah, I think it's going to bring the gun just to be on the safe side. I don't need any bad days.
Yeah, I would err with the worst case scenario. I'm that way when I go out onto these things, and we've had this conversation before. Even the way that I pack into these spots, I could be 5 miles into the woods, and I probably bring 20, 30 pounds worth of crap I don't need, but that one time I might need it. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? I'm going to get out of those woods alive, or if I get injured, or if something happens, I'm more than Boy Scout prepared. I am always ready for the worst case scenario, and I think that's a lot better situation to be in than go minimalist, especially on a hot day. Nobody wants to carry a bunch of extra crap with them, but
right.
You don't have to carry it the whole time. Just have it in your proximity. I put my backpack on the side of a tree where I can see it from pretty much any direction within a certain distance, but if it came down to a first aid kit or making fire or any of that stuff, it's always there.
Yeah, and we're going to be right by my buddy's house. It's like an acre over. I don't think we're gonna have too much. I'm gonna bring it anyways. They carry guns all the time over there. So critters are critters. I usually don't worry about them much because, like, even our shovels that we carry as detectors, I mean, these predator tools and stuff like that. If you had to chop at something or protect yourself, by golly, that's it's like having a spear. I mean, these things are pretty aggressive. Our shovels are very aggressive and strong, so at least you have something like that. But I think I'm going to bring the gun just to be on the safe side, but I don't picture any problems, never have had any. So we'll see. We're going to probably detect this area first. We're going to have to use the 7x9 coils, and I told Mark already bring a small coil that he has because we're going to be working in and out around palmettos, but they're not real bushy yet, so I'm not really worried about snakes too much, not like you get that real thick stuff, Brandon, and it's like you're brushing, it's like knee high and you can't even see the ground because of that's when I really start worrying. I won't even go into an area like that in the summertime. Just can't see anything, slithering around on the ground. But this time of year, I don't, as long as they're not real bushy trees or whatever bushes, I don't worry about it. And nothing can hide really from me. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah,
luckily we don't have much of the snake problem up this way. I mean, we do have the timber rattlers, which I've still yet to see one with all the years I've been metal detecting or hiking in the woods. I've still never seen one in person. To me, the thing that gets me the most, and it's not even really an animal, it's the damn spiders or the ticks. Those are the two main things that drive me nuts in the woods. The ticks, obviously, there's nothing you can do about them. But the spiders, when you're walking between two trees and you're metal detecting, you're staring at the ground, and that spider web goes ear to ear across your face. I am the most irrational person when it comes to spiders. I mean, I will literally drop the detector, drop the shovel, start screaming like a little girl. If there is the smallest spider crawling on my ear, you're going to know it.
No, see, I'm nowhere near. I think
I don't care about it myself.
I
see a red hourglass or something on the back of one.
Yeah, you think a true story, guys, and this is no exaggeration at all. We had to help a buddy move, and we backed up. He had a mobile home with a sliding glass door, so I backed the straight truck up and then moved the ramp. We were going to sit the ramp through the screen door so that we could walk across it, walk it right into the truck. Well, it wouldn't work right. We were worried about damaging it, so we took the frame out, the whole door out. When we did that, right up in the seam where the top header is, it was nothing but black widows. There was tons of them. I don't know what the heck. They were like a nest up in there. Talk about freaking out, man. And we were like, you're constantly, we sprayed it down with bug spray and everything else because it was like an infestation of black widows. And they're not big. I mean, they're small things. We didn't even know what they were at first until we saw the hourglass on the back of them. That freaked us out a little bit. It kind of got off topic.
I would have burned a quarter-mile square around that spot.
Yeah, I'm not scared of them. I'm just a firm believer that the best spider is a dead spider if it's in my domain. If they're outside, all the power to them. Live free and sing kumbaya. You're in my house. Hey, you know what? You're not going to be there much longer, so you better leave. So we have these wood spiders that are their legs. I mean, they're as big as your hand with their legs. How they spread. They're hairy little buggers. They're predator spiders. Those kind of unnerve me a little bit, and because they'll follow you. I mean, they're not really afraid of you, and that's what these things can become pretty damn big. I come across some outside of my garage that were black as night. They looked like the most gothic-looking spider, and it was probably about 2 inches. The body was, and long, and the legs are really pointed and stuff. It was really intimidating. Like I don't even know what kind of spider that was, but it was a dead spider. So I wasn't going to chance him sneaking up on me later. But yeah, I just don't like them. I love honeybees because honeybees have a purpose. But all these like mud daubers and horseflies and whatever, spiders, you stay in the yard, get away from me. So I don't need to. I have a few bites on me, and Brandon, when one of these brown recluse gets you, you don't even feel it, or I never did. And that in my arm, picture an eraser from a regular pencil. That's how far that goes into my arm from a brown recluse.
We have the brown recluse up here too, which is our most common. We do have an occasional black widow. You don't see a lot of stories of it, but the brown recluse is the most common poisonous spider up here anyway. And I've seen in person of course, my wife's a nurse, but I've seen some of the worst bacterial infections that can go in somebody's body where they have to cut out sections of flesh just to stop it from spreading any further. I mean, it is a nasty thing. And like you said, you don't feel it. It's almost like when a tick bites you, you don't feel it happening because they inject an anti-pain type thing. That's the first part of their bite, and then it just gets worse and worse, especially if it's in a spot you don't see.
Oh yeah, my wife Pauline dealt with. We don't know what caused. Well, they say it was the stuff you get from the surgery rooms, the infection, whatever the. Oh God, it's a staph of some kind.
MRSA?
No, it's worse than that. It was flesh eating, is what it essentially was, or something like that. Yeah. But Pauline, we went on vacation about in 2005 and got up there and had to take her right to the emergency room, and she spent the next month in the hospital, 2 surgeries and morphine and everything else, and she doesn't even remember the first 2 or 3 weeks. being there, and she was in there for a 1 week long vacation turned into a 2 month ordeal. But they covered everything because it's the only place it happened was in the surgery room. She had a minor surgery a year before, and they said it lied dormant. But yeah, that's when you start getting into spider bites, it's kind of the same way. Anything that's some of those are like flesh eating and stuff. Oh my God, it's just nasty. But you get bit. I'm sure your wife's seen tons of stuff like that being in an emergency room, but it darn sure kill you, that's for sure. So it's probably good to get them out
or
of it.
Scare the hell out of you. At least enough to be a little more precautionary.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's like me and food. I'm a foodophobe. If something sits in the refrigerator for more than a day, more than I say 2 days, it's going in the trash. I mean, I don't do leftovers. I haven't for years. You get food poisoning a couple times, and it'll teach you, So I guess I'm a germaphobe in a way, but not like some of these people. But just stay away from me. But yeah, we kind of got off topic on it, but we always do that. We don't really have a format anyway. So, but yeah, we're gonna metal detect that. I don't know what we'll find. I mean, I really don't. This place is pretty far back in there, and it's rustic to say the least. There is some fences up and stuff, but I think Mark especially is going to be impressed with getting back in there. I told him we'll drive, we'll carpool because Mike has a truck and I do too. So get back in there and just kind of you're off the beaten path. It's kind of neat. It's kind of like that a turpentine mill I went to a couple years ago, like a really long drive and windy and everything. So yeah, we might see. Could even see some gator. I think there's that water supply there. That's another thing we got to worry about down here, but it's not real prevalent yet. I mean, stepping on them or something, water moccasins, all that kind of thing. It seems like all kinds of critters crawl out of the woodwork sometimes, but usually they don't bother you.
I'll tell you, this hunt that you guys are going on makes me sound like I'm glad I don't live in Florida and not to go metal detecting with you, Derek.
Oh, no, guys, don't let me scare you. I'm just, the worst case scenarios, but, this stuff is down here. I'd rather know that it is down here rather than just go out there and not know, you know what I mean? And let you guys go out there and not know about it. But, there's snakes and stuff like that everywhere, up north and everything. So, you got bigger bears and stuff than we do. So, Brandon, I'd probably think the same thing if I was going into your woods.
I'll take my chances against the bear in rocky terrain and possibly falling off a cliff before I'll take my chances with big-ass spiders, alligators, poisonous snakes. Yeah, no, I like my odds better in the north.
Yeah. Snakes never really bothered me. Rattlesnakes, yeah, but I usually hear them before I get, I'm swinging that detector, so they're going to hit that detector coil before they hit me, hopefully. And that's because they're looking at feeling the motion, whatever. They know that something's moving. So, I haven't had much problem with those. I ran into one a year or so ago, and he kind of slithered off. So, but yeah, coral snakes and stuff I don't worry about. I actually fear the non-poisonous ones more, like the chicken snakes. It's some kind of a rat snake, I think. But the things are so aggressive. You think that they were like a king cobra, striking and striking over and over again. Really aggressive, but they're not poisonous or nothing. It's just more annoying than anything when they do it. It kind of scares you at first because you don't know what's hitting you. So.
Right, yeah, we've got something called a milk snake up here, which usually lives right in the borderline of a field to the wood line. They kind of nest in that vicinity. Mm-hmm. And like you said, these things are about the size of a garter snake, not usually much bigger than 3, maybe 4 feet long, but small head. They'll get right up on end and strike and strike and strike so aggressively, it doesn't matter how big of a person you are, and it's rather intimidating.
Yeah, definitely. And we got a lot of, we have a lot of, kind of cool snakes down here. Mud snakes and just even the garden variety snakes are kind of neat. You were talking about the black widows and Brandon, the only time you're going to really run into those is warm, damp, like really kind of secluded areas. Like if there was a bathtub or something like on its side in the woods or something up underneath there. They don't like to be out in the sunlight and stuff. That's what I've always been told anyway, and that's where I've always seen them in those kind of environments. So I don't think you're going to have to worry too much up there about running into those.
Well, the biggest thing that when we get them up here, that it's always a story about like an Adirondack chair out in the backyard where somebody sits down in the chair and sticks their hand over the side of the armrest.
Really?
that's when they end up getting the bite. Yeah, that's pretty much the only stories we hear. It's lawn furniture, it's furniture on your deck, some outdoor sitting area that you weirdly put your arm to the side or underneath and disturb the nest. That's the only time we ever see them in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the temperatures down here. They kind of stay to that, but yeah, so they're not a big deal. The biggest thing I think, a couple guys mentioned it in videos. When you're digging these holes and stuff, make sure something doesn't slither up and fall into the hole, and that where you're digging for the arrowheads and stuff. Especially a lot of these, I usually try to, even when I'm digging holes, I'll scrape the leaves away from the ground or away from the hole where I'm going to be digging at, and hopefully that, because these coral snakes like to sit underneath leaf beds, like a bunch of leaves, they'll get underneath them, slither around in there. That's where I always find them at. But they're kind of neat. I don't really mess with them too much, but they're not like intimidating, not like trying to bite me or anything. They just kind of slither off and do their own thing. So more worry about the dogs and stuff. Especially our little dog.
Jump off the line here, but I'm going to leave you with what I'm going to plan on doing the rest of the night is consider stop metal detecting and look up some videos on knitting, because I don't have to leave my house to do any of that.
Alrighty.
That's a lot safer. Take it easy, guys. Continue on.
Alrighty. Yeah, guys, the number here is 352-504-4170. And, if you have some thoughts or advice or whatever on this, I'm pretty much going to be bringing, Craig, I figured just, I have my detecting shovel already, and I use a long-handled shovel, but I'm going to make a probe tomorrow out of like a CB antenna, real heavy-duty, like the metal part, the whip of the CB antenna. I'm going to cut that down, because they were telling me on there, you don't need to probe any deeper than you want to dig. So I figured, while I'm detecting, I can be just poking that in the ground and doing two things at once, I guess, to kind of, if I think I have an area that I can start to kind of look for some arrowheads, just to get, if I tap one, great, or whatever. They make a distinctive, it's probably like glass, when you tap it. I don't know if have you ever probed for bottles, Craig? I should have asked you that to begin with.
We dug a trash pit privy-like thing down, like 23 feet one time. Mm-hmm. And it was just, you just kind of see the bottles or I got to where we were kind of, lightly raking against the sides. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of hear them, but you just don't know where they are. I mean,
right. Well, it's kind of like a hut site. The hut sites, when they use those probes, to probe down to see where the voids are, or if they tap into something, I guess. I've never done that either, to be honest with you, but, as far as hut sites go, but that's kind of what you're listening for, is that glass sound or that rub on an arrowhead. I would assume if you probably feel the seed, feel it through the rod or whatever. I guess that's what they're talking about. We'll find out. Like I said, it's going to be comical, to say the least, but as far as that goes, once you get down to a certain level, I figure about a foot and a half down, start working the hole outward, or, from there if you find something. And kind of the same premise we do, with metal detecting. Even the site itself, I haven't walked up in there yet even. I just kind of walked the outskirts of it a little bit. But I'm just sight reading more than I'm doing anything like I would do, if I was going to metal detect somewhere, getting an idea of what the lay of the land, the way the elevation is, if there's any indentations in the ground, or, like low spots or, weird stones stacked up somewhere, the Sumter County rock and stuff. It can get pretty big. We have big boulders of the stuff some places. Just kind of get an idea of what you're looking at, what you think they did, and going from there. I'm just kind of taking that approach. Start off with the holes that you were talking, like you were talking about, the guy left open. I'll probably try to fill a couple of them in too, unless my buddy did that already. And if I don't find anything, and they're just so they're covered up, but. It's another good example how fast you can lose a permission. Even in metal detecting, you leave a couple open holes, that can tick off a property owner pretty bad. Just for principle, because you're supposed to leave it cleaner than what than what you found it. As far as the property goes. So we're always picking up nails or our trash and everything, getting it out of there, making their property a little bit better. The way I look at it, and. When you leave open holes or leave junk laying around, it's a fast way to not get permission and actually get a lot of people, the guy may not even give anybody permission anymore, that type of thing. So that was an instance here. I don't know, I couldn't pass it up, Craig. I was just kind of looking at it like, something about this place. It just caught my eye, so to speak. I think it might be pretty good. If anything else, I hope we find some stuff, with the metal detectors, of anything. So, but Mike was kind of laughing too, and he says, "I'll leave here at 4:00 in the morning. I'll be to your house by 5:30, 6 o'clock." And I'm like, how about 7? I didn't want to get up at that early in the dark, just about dark anyway. But yeah, he's Mike's. I don't know. Mike has a lot of luck, and so I think Mark does too. We'll see how they do. I think they'll do better than me as far as this Arrowhead thing and even metal detecting. These two are pretty doggone good. I took them to that site, the church site that I used to do all the time, and Mike found a mercury dime, which there's only been I think 2 or 3 found on that property, and Mark finds 2 rings, bling rings, spinner rings, but it was still pretty cool. And he found some change and everything. I'm like, man, I've been hunting this forever. And so does a lot of people, but it's just so trashy that a lot of them walk away. But those guys stuck with it, man. They were bound and determined to find something. So it's kind of fun. We'll get them out there and see what they do with it. I actually got another site we can go to if we don't really do anything there, and kind of do some just regular detecting. But I don't know, Craig. I might have fun with this. I'm thinking. I get to play in the dirt, so that's still good, right? It's kind of like metal detecting.
Yeah.
And you're saving history, so hey, it doesn't matter whether it's metal or not. If it's something old and somebody used.
And if you find one, it'll be the oldest thing you've ever found, practically.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. At least in Florida. But I'm hoping that I can.
You're talking thousands of years instead of decades or hundreds of years. It's pretty wild.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, just
when I found it was 6,000 years old.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had and I was talking about the Spanish. We had the DeSoto Trail ran right up. Well, not right up US 301, but it was pretty doggone near it. So it shows activity right there, anyways. And I'm not that far from there. I mean, we're a couple, maybe a mile or 2 from 301. So, I'm thinking maybe, hey, who knows? I might get into some. I'd like to find anything really, even metal, that's really, really old, just to, have some kind of a place to start at to kind of look around more and then kind of lead you down the path, so to speak. That's the only way I can figure to trying to find this stuff. I've tried other ways, and other thoughts, but, there's stuff buried everywhere. I mean, I know, you think about all the bank robberies and all the stuff that's happened in history in your town. It could be up there by you, Craig, and all the stuff that's buried in the ground. It could be anything, jar of coins, or like you're finding just regular relics. But I mean, there's people that just dumped money to hide it. So I'm surprised none of us have really found a catch of coins.
One of the relic hunters told me he found coin stash. I think like 300 silver coins from 1711 to 1746 or something.
Right.
Was the newest coin. And it's wild.
What got me too is go ahead.
We finally got up to the battlefield permission this weekend.
Oh, that's right.
And, we met these 2 guys, and the one guy said we could come up, and Mike and Steve went over, I guess 2 weeks ago, and talked to the guys, and they said, yeah, it's been hunted, not a lot of people come, but welcome anytime, and it's on the weekend, and his relatives own property. It's all woods, and it's all, really thick bushes and stuff.
Right.
And it's rocky, real rocky. This whole area is, we're like in the foothills of the mountains. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we had like 2 weeks of bad weather, 3 days of snow from the day before spring until the day after spring. It was
Jeez.
crazy. Had 5 inches of snow. It snowed continuously, but it was, you know, it wasn't real big flake. It was like real fine.
Almost like a sleet kind of thing.
3 days. Well, no, it was dry.
Oh, was it all
dry?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure in this time of year, you know. You know, because it is getting warm, cold. You never know.
But today we had probably 73. But anyway, we got over there and we hunted the woods, and Mike lost his phone, and I dialed the number and we found it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be.
But
you told me about that one. Yeah.
So anyway, I got a whole bunch of shell casings and you know, what do you call it? You know, just copper-clad bullets and stuff. And some of them were 4 and 5, 6 inches down in the ground, and I was wondering, you know, kind of weird, you know, finding all this stuff. But
right.
I only got one bullet, and that was up toward this fence that goes into this big field. And I read later on, I found out that that was where the Confederates overran Yankee camps.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually stopped to raid the camps, you know, because they were out of provisions and stuff. And
right.
Sheridan ended up, and Custer ended up coming back and defeating the army. And so
right.
they had like 60 heavy gun cannon at that point, 60 or 70, I think. They could have blasted the whole Union Army and taken them out, but it was just they didn't think they were going to come.
Right.
But this whole area was just, you know, loaded with stuff. When the guy said that some neighbors of him years ago asked to hunt the property, and 3 years later they said, "Hey, come over and see what we got." He said the whole basement was like a museum. He said he was shocked.
Yeah.
And so I said, "They get any Confederate plates?" And his head just hit the kitchen table.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. So anyway, you know, he said, "Hey, yeah, come on back after you hunt," you know. So when I got there, you know, his mother and I think an uncle and his wife and stuff were there. And so he goes, "Did you find anything?" And I go, "Yeah, I got a fire 3-ringer," and I pulled it out and showed him, and he had this shocked look on his face, and they all looked at each other and they go, "Man, you know, you found that on the property here?" And I said, "Yeah, right over, you know, to the, you know, back to the left there, you know, before you get to the fence." And he goes, "Man, you're kidding me." And he goes, "How deep was it?" And I said, "Nah, 10 or 11 inches. He goes, "That deep? Your machine can go that deep?"
Yeah, they always...
Well, he told me that he was trying to get a hold of his uncle to borrow a white Spectrum he had.
Right.
He goes, "Man, those are really good machines." And I said, "Yeah, I had one back in the 90s.
Yeah. It just...
But,
they all find you something, but it just, you know, it's that level where you need to punch, you know, through this stuff or get in between this stuff. It's gotta have the power. It's got to be able to do it. And you know,
it was so hard hunting because, you know, of all the sticker bushes. I'm wondering if years ago there wasn't so many.
Right.
But
oh yeah, I'm
farm,
sure.
It's like it looks like it's grazing mostly. You know, there's so many rocks in the ground.
Right. Yeah.
Boulders everywhere. I mean,
yeah, you got to be able to punch the ground though. If you're in that kind of environment where you know everything's going to be deep, and he may have not even understood that it was that deep because he'd never found anything that deep before there. So you know it's one of those things where it gives you more of a chance. You can go back out there and find some more stuff. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we were going by the cabin and they're fixing it all up, and I found out that the Union Army retreated, a major retreat after Confederates beat them, and they went right down 2 houses from my house right up the street there, and right by that cabin. So Steve had found a Burnside Eagle plate and some bullets, and the other guy had found some bullets. And when Mike and I came back from the battlefield site, let's pull around the block and see what the guys were there, and sure enough they were. And so I found out later. The one guy found a large ball button laying right on the ground, perfect shape.
Nice.
But, they didn't find much at all. They said that when you dig down, you hit gravel, so it must have been like a parking lot there one time. But I went around there today, and they dug a huge pit in the middle of the backyard, or back property. It looks like they might be putting a building or something in there too.
Right. Yeah, go through that dirt,
But
man.
I think they're gonna. I think it's gonna be like a little museum there.
Mm-hmm.
And then up the street, they had a new plaque in front of this church, and the church was built in 1814. It's called St. Thomas Chapel, I think.
Right.
But it said across the street they had a brand new plaque they just put up, and it faces it, and it shows like a scene from inside the church with the surgeons working on the soldiers. Like it was a makeshift hospital.
That right there brings to mind. I was just watching a series on Netflix about the Civil War. I think it's done by PBS or something like that. But just every time I see a documentary like that, when they're actually going through letters and what people said back then and how they described these battles and stuff, my gosh, you just can't. As bad as you might think it was really bad, it's always 10 times worse. And Craig, they were talking, I can't remember which battle it is now. It's the bloodiest battle during the Civil War, but it wasn't Gettysburg or something. I can't remember. It's somewhere in Virginia. They lost, in I thought they said in 30 hours they lost like 17,000 or something like that on one side or whatever. They battled for, I think it was a day or two or something for the same piece of ground. It never went Union side or Confederate side. They said so many bullets were flying that if somebody got hit with multiples, they've seen them come down in pieces. Just fall apart essentially. That's how brutal it was. It just floors me even thinking about it. Watching these shows, just how many people were. It was like it's bad. As bad as people don't realize how many on both sides. It just.
That was like one of the. There's like Church Street, right parallel to my street, and that was a major street during that period. And a lot of the houses supposedly have bullet holes in them, but most of them, the bullets are gone.
Right.
They were stuck in there, and people, pulled them out over the years. But pretty funny. There's all these. Looks like houses mostly from 1840s, 1850s.
Right.
But anyway, there was somebody in a diary was talking about how the soldier, both sides were just standing in the middle of the street, just firing streams straight up and down the street. I said, no wonder somebody fired bullets in those houses.
Yeah.
God.
The one guy, they were describing. Oh, go ahead.
I think we all found like couple fire bullets in the yard. Most of them were drops.
Yeah, that seemed like a lot of.
I got a funny one today. It's such a nice day today. I went walking back in the front yard, turned the machine on, swept 3 times, and got a signal, and I dug a couple of nails, and then got a little tiny flat button.
Yeah.
And it turned out it has something colors on the back of it. And it's got all these little flowers and a ring around it. I haven't cleaned it up yet. I want to be careful when I clean it.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. You don't find.
But anyway, I went back over the hole and I got a pretty good signal in both directions. And I said, man, that's pretty good. So I sat down. I pulled 4 or 5 nails out of the hole, and then I got a 3-ringer down about 9 inches deep. So that was pretty wild.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You just
And the bullet had hardly no patina on it at all. It was still blue. It's the first one. Most of them have been gray that come out of the yard instead of being white.
Do you think it got into a pocket?
I don't know why.
It might be a pocket of, I don't know, neutral soil or something like that down in there.
Yeah,
it's weird.
There was nearby. There was like pieces of coal all in the ground. I flipped one plug over and I showed it to Mike, and there was just chunks of coal all through the whole plug.
Huh. Well, coal filters, I'm sure. That's one thing that's nice about it, because I know I've heard that a lot of the VLF detectors will go off on coal, but we never had that problem when we were up in Horsham and stuff like that.
Every once in a while, mine will on a. It has to be like burnt where it's like hollowed out. Like it's like perforated or something.
Right.
It's
oh, okay.
Light.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of mineralization in that.
But it's not like a good signal. It's a weird signal.
Yeah, it's like a whoop
sound.
Yeah, it's like a whoop sound.
Anything like a. Yeah, but that's the only. This one I checked it, and I was running the ore mode. Maybe that works better too. But
I don't know. I never had a problem with it really. But
around all these old houses, they were most of them were heated with coal, so they just threw all the chinkers out the back door and side door and wherever. In the yard.
I brought this up to you a day or so ago. Maybe it was today. I can't remember. We were talking about it as far as what the arrowheads are made of, or what kind of material they were making arrowheads out of. And they didn't always use quartz or whatever. If they didn't have it around, they couldn't use it. But I was wondering if these certain kinds of arrowheads have like a mineralization in them. And this would have to be for a bigger arrowhead, I would think. But being down here in Florida, when we don't have a lot of mineralization, I could set my machine up really hot, like all metal, and mess with the ground balance on it. I was wondering if I could get any kind of a signal off. I guess if I find an arrowhead, I'll try it. But I mean, it'd have to have some mineralization in it, obviously. But I wonder if it'd be sensitive enough to pick that up, because we can pick up some really small stuff at like 4 and 5 inches down. I don't know if the arrowheads do that or not, Craig, or whether they made them out of a material that had them in them. You had that mineralization in them. You know what I mean?
The only ones I've ever found were quartz and chert, and I found out that the chert actually came from up in Pennsylvania somewhere. They actually traded back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But which I thought was pretty interesting. That's a long way from down to Virginia.
Right. I mean, it's just
they had to be traveling by foot.
Yeah. Well, we get some down here that don't even belong. Well, I'm saying they weren't, the material's not native of Florida, but the rivers and stuff, the river systems, it's like a super highway back then. That's the way I always heard it. And they traded in different stuff, and you find the beads well, actually, we're getting the idea about the beads and using the sifter, Craig, there was a guy that was detecting down here, and he always looks at ant hills. Like we get the red ants that make the really big mounds, and he'll kick those over and start looking, kind of picking through it without getting ate up by the ants. But he's found beads, and he found a arrowhead, and this is the smallest doggone arrowhead I've ever seen, and he's ever seen. It's almost like it'd be for a blowgun. I mean, it's that small. Just, I don't know, maybe total size of an eraser on a pencil, maybe not even very much bigger than that. I just thought that was neat, but he found it in an anthill. Just kicked the anthill over, and because it's such small grains of sand that they pile up, anything bigger than that grain of sand or whatever, that clump, you're going to notice it pretty easily. But yeah, he found a little bitty arrowhead and a bead, like Indian, the beads they traded and wore in that mound right there. So I thought that was pretty neat. Maybe I'll find a bunch of anthills and kick them over and try not to get ate up. So, but yeah, I mean, I actually got some photos and stuff of Indian war casualties a couple couple stones I saw in an old cemetery near here, and they don't even have a date on. It just says victims of the Indian War and their rank and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of neat. That and there was a Confederate soldier in the same cemetery. It only has I think about 20 stones. You don't even notice it's there. It's right along I-75, believe it or not, and you can't. A lot of people don't even know it's there. But yeah, they just kind of strange. You find these stones, so you know that at that time there was people living around there. They wouldn't have put a cemetery there, but there's no other buildings, nothing else around there for quite a ways that I know of, anyways, that I can see. Driving down the road or whatever. So I was kind of wondering about that, with whether it's a little town there. I can't imagine them putting a cemetery out in the middle of nowhere. And we're talking, well, really, it's about 3 miles from Bushnell. And, there's like nothing out there. So I just thought it was kind of strange. I guess I could do some research on that and look that up to see if there was a town or how close the town was to there. It might be a good place to detect in some of those fields. It's so hard to find the activity. You know what I mean? You just gotta go with your gut. Sometimes it's usually worked out for me pretty good, but it's not foolproof by any means. But just for metal detecting alone. So I'm just kind of using the same premise, with this place. The biggest thing is, and I wanted to mention this: if you come to Florida, do not go to a state park or a state forest, and even think about picking up an arrowhead. If you see it laying on the ground, buddy, they can give you a lot of grief over that. But as much as you'd hate to, just leave it lie. They're getting weird about it, even more weird than they have been, because they've had a lot of people go in there, I guess, and just dig a bunch of holes everywhere, and pretty much screwed it up for everybody, kind of, in a way. But or at least I think that's what happened. That's what I've heard, anyways. It makes sense, but if you have private property or something like that, then you're okay, as far as I know, anyways. So always try to check out laws and stuff. That's why I figure this is private property, so we're good. But we can't go too far. Like a mile down the road would be a state forest. So you have to be careful. You don't want those kind of law problems coming and bite you. So it's kind of like battlefields for us, and as far as metal detecting, we don't go near battlefield. Like Gettysburg or something. You don't even get anywhere near it with a metal detector. They'll pretty much, you'll be in a lot of trouble, put it that way. So
yeah, but when you're going on to a spot like that, because up here it's all clearly marked.
Yeah,
10 feet or 20 feet. There's a sign that says, part of the battlefield.
Right.
So it's not worth it. They've been hunted to death too. Illegally. Or gotten permission from people over the years, especially up around here, but just about everywhere. Those have been, they've been hunted.
Oh yeah.
And it's not worth going to jail for it, because it makes it really serious. I mean, it's nothing to joke about.
To me, it's almost like going onto a cemetery in a way. I'd never do that. I mean, nobody does that I know of, anyways. But it's just a respect thing, number one. But battlefields are. I mean, I don't know, Craig. It's something about just knowingly. I mean, if you come across one, a skirmish ground or something, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the actual, like Gettysburg or something. I mean, you don't want to. That's like holy ground. That's a lot of, bad stuff happened there anyway, bad juju. So I don't think I'd want to be on there looking around for anything. Just make sure you're within the law in your whatever area. In a lot of states, in a lot of counties, and they're changing their laws around, and even the beaches down here. We had a story about that where they were trying to get us to have to buy a permit for each and every beach. Well, there's 400 miles of beach land or whatever around Florida. That's a lot of $100 bills, where they were talking about. So, but you don't want to get caught doing something illegal, because then tell you what, it can be pretty nasty nowadays. If you get banned into they try to make you like you're a bad group or something. Obviously, they'll come after you pretty hard. So just make sure you're within your rights to do whatever you're going to do. whether it's relic hunt with metal detectors or bottle hunting or whatever. But private property, usually as far as I know, a private property, you're okay down here anyways. So like West Virginia, I think is like that too. You can't just go onto state land in West Virginia and metal detect, as far as I know.
It's pretty much that way everywhere.
Yeah. Well, like where Brandon lives. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I saw a thing where they had a list of all these states, and it was either no, or if it was yes, you had to get a permit, and then you couldn't take anything. You couldn't, pick up anything or take anything with you.
You see,
what's the purpose? Basically no. Mm-hmm. There might be a couple states still that allow it, but
no. Well, they do. I mean, like up at where Brandon's at and stuff, they allow it. I know there's probably several states like Texas and Arizona and all those western states. I don't think there's a lot of big time rules on that, but down here in Florida, they you're always safe with private property or like if you're hunting the beaches, you're good from the dune to the water, except over near where the is it near Vero, Craig, or Jensen Beach? I don't know. There's that section, and maybe it's up near St. Augustine. I don't know. There's certain areas they'll have them marked, and I haven't run into too much of that on the West Coast at all. On the East Coast, I'm sure that does happen, but yeah, don't get caught on those parts. Just there's plenty of beaches to hunt. Don't get in trouble. Because they got the crosshairs on us half the time anyways. So that's what I'm gathering more and more. You're hearing more and more about metal detecting and arrowhead hunting and artifact hunting being banned or being whatever. A lot of times these people making the laws don't understand what we're doing. At least as relic hunters, we're more interested in saving history than to take advantage of it and sell everything we have and all that kind of junk. It's up to the person, but most of us don't do that. We just enjoy finding the stuff, and that's displaying it and all that kind of thing. So, but regardless, just be careful. I just want to put that out there because these guys get themselves in some weird situations. Craig, I got a phone call the other day about one, and it turned out okay, but the guy kept us cool. He didn't, don't run your mouth, don't threaten anybody. Just kind of, okay, I'm leaving. It's no problem. They have an argument with these guys. You get into a whole different scenario about people's feelings getting hurt and them wanting to come after you even more. That's what happened down in Clearwater, or I think it was St. Pete, whatever Mike was talking about. So I think the wife is home. She just wandered in the door. She wandered in again. But at any rate, Craig, I'm probably going to wrap it up for the night anyways. But yeah, I'm gonna shoot a video of everything as we go along and do stuff over there at that site on Saturday, and I'll post up something. It'd probably be funny more than anything else. We'll see what we find, though. I got great faith in Mike and Mark. With myself, I don't know. So, but at any rate, Craig, we want to wrap it up for tonight then?
Yeah,
okay.
Good.
All right. Well, guys, we are on every Thursday night and Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on Spreaker.com. And, you can check out some of our videos and our other posts about, Bliss Tool and hardcore metal detecting stuff on our Facebook pages. So check us out, and we'll talk to you on Saturday night. Hopefully we'll have some really good news about all kinds of goodies we found. So until then, I guess get out there, keep digging, and God bless.